So I think my situation was probably a little bit different than most. There wasn't a point that I felt like I should start, or like I was ready to start speaking openly. I've been speaking for pretty close to 20 years, not on these topics, but in business, and I'm also an author, and so communication has kind of been a major component to just about everything I've done for my entire life. But with this, I've had an interesting relationship, I think, with ministry, because there were points in my life where I felt like the Lord was leading me to enter into ministry, and then it kind of seemed like that's where everything was headed, and then all of a sudden it just didn't seem to go anywhere. It was like I just hit a wall. And so then I would end up back in business again, and this cycle has been going for, quite frankly, about 20 years now. So the thing that changed, I think, this time is twofold. One of them is I really struggled with just even doing this, because I jump on TikTok and I'm like, there's a billion people on here speaking and preaching the gospel, a lot of great content being put out there, and I'm kind of looking at what I'm doing. I'm going like, a drop in the ocean here. Does the ocean really need another drop? And I think in a lot of ways that's prevented me from moving forward more aggressively with this calling. And it wasn't until about 7 months ago, maybe 8 now, I turned 40, and on my 40th birthday, I literally rolled out of bed, and it wasn't like booming voice from the sky audible, but it was like about as close to audible as you can get in my spirit. And it just felt like the Lord said, it's time to start preaching. And so for the better part of about 5 months, I kept trying to get stuff on paper and put together, a sermon, right? Whatever it is. And I kept trying to put stuff together, and it was like every time I started down a path, I couldn't get anything to be cohesive. And it wasn't because the concepts weren't there. It was because what I was digging into was so deep that by the time I got, it's like I would build a concept out, and I'd go, okay, here's the concept. But to understand that concept, you need to have this concept. And then I'd build that out. And it's like, okay, but to understand that concept, you need this concept. And it was like this never-ending thing where I couldn't ever just get an idea on paper to put out that was cohesive, because I just kind of, it's like I kept falling down this infinite rabbit holes almost. And so finally, about 2 months ago, I guess it was around the end of November, the Lord literally just said to me, Devin, open your mouth and start talking anywhere. He's like, I don't care where, pick a platform and just start talking. Stop overcomplicating it. Stop trying to build a sermon out. Just start talking. And so around the beginning of December, that's what I did. And since then, I've produced 100 and some odd videos. And here we are. So to answer your question, if you feel like the Lord's pushing you to speak or to start a ministry, then my advisement would be just start. Because what I'm doing here is just an act of obedience, and we'll see what the Lord decides to do with it. Anyway, I hope that helps. At the end of the day, man, I think ministry, true ministry, is just about obedience. If you are where the Lord wants you, doing what the Lord wants you to be doing, then that's the most powerful ministry. That was Jesus's ministry. His ministry was a ministry of obedience. And he said as much. He said, I only do what I see my Father in heaven doing. And I think that's the example we got to take with this kind of stuff. If the Lord gives you a task, a thing to carry out, then we've got to act in trust and in faith, and just let the Spirit lead it. I think that's probably the most important thing, because the most destructive thing that we can do is trying to carry out the Spirit's guidance in our own strength. And you see this in the story of Abraham, right? I mean, God gave Abraham a promise. You're going to have an heir, and through that heir is going to come many nations. And yet when there was delay in the delivery of the heir, Abraham and his wife got into their heads, and they're like, well, maybe God needs our help. And so they carried out the ministry that God had for them in their own strength, and as a result produced an Ishmael. There's a lot of pastors and a lot of ministries out there that are producing Ishmaels because they're carrying out the mission that God gave them in their own strength and in their own understanding. And I'm not saying that to knock on anybody, right? It's easy to do. I mean, God, I've done it, But I'm saying that as both a warning as well as something to relieve some pressure off of yourself. You don't have to do it in your own strength, and if you do, I would say you're not really fulfilling the mandate. So take the pressure off, and instead just act in faith, as the Spirit leads you, go, and I mean, God, I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to put a teaching up because it was a great idea, great concept, and the Lord was like, yeah, I don't want you to put that up. And so I just had to, delete it or park it and, and put up what He wants to talk about, right? Because at the end of the day, the point of ministry isn't about delivering a good message. It's not about likes. It's not about comments. It's not about, getting people excited. It's not about any of that stuff. At the end of the day, the point of ministry is for people to come to know Jesus, and through that interaction and that transaction, then from there the point is for them to be transformed through that relationship. And so any teaching that I do, my teaching is not transformative. Only the Holy Spirit can be transformative. My teaching is simply meant to continuously point people back to the source of transformation so that they can then be transformed through that relationship with Christ. And if my message isn't doing that, if my message is making people feel good, or, is getting me lots of likes or getting lots of attention, but people aren't taking action based on that teaching and going and engaging in the Spirit and engaging in their relationship with Christ and growing and maturing and transforming, if that is not the result of my teaching, then everything I have done is for nothing and it's completely worthless. So all that to say, man, walk by faith. Be obedient to the Spirit, let the rest take care of itself. Like Paul says, one person's going to plant, another person's going to water, but ultimately it's God who makes it grow.